What's going on, everyone? My name's Eric. Today we are going to be shooting out two of the legendary Randall amps that Dimebag used with Pantera. Today we're going to be shooting out the Randall Century 200 and the 202. Both of those amps were used between the years of 92 to around 95-ish. In that time, we have Vulgar Display of Power, Far Beyond Driven, basically Pantera's most acclaimed albums. And why I'm doing this is because there's so many people who say that the 2 sounds better than the 1, or the 1 sounds better than the 2, or there's just a lot of people in general who think that the 2 is better because it must be the newer version of the original. Just as many things in life, you know, vehicles, phones, and things like that, the evolution of something is generally better than the one before it. Both amps sound great on their own, but you know, let's just figure out if they actually sound different from each other because they're rare amps. There's a lot of people who want them. And what we're gonna do is shoot both amps out and just see like what they're all about by comparison to each other. And you know, if one comes up, you can use this video and make an informed decision to which amp you're gonna buy. All right, so here we are in the studio. I have my guitar. Of course, it's a Dimebag guitar because it's a Dimebag video. We have the Washburn Culprit Bill Lawrence XL 500 in the bridge. This is going to be going into the Randall Century 1 and the Century 2. Both of these amps, again, I've done some videos on them. You can go check them out after this video if you want to hear them in a bit more isolated context. Both of these amps are going into this Delisle amp switcher. No affiliation, not sponsoring or anything like this. I just bought this years ago, and this is kind of like my first real time using it. It's pretty cool. It's a passive amp cab switcher box. Both of these amps are running out of the speaker outputs on the backs of the amp, and they're going into the back of the amp section on the back of this amp switcher. And then I'm going to be going right into my 2-notes captor. And why I'm doing that for the very loud few people online who say I should be miking up a cab, it's because I live in an apartment and I really can't do that. And the nearest studio away from me, if I wanted to rent out a jam space, is going to be like an hour drive, and I would have to lug everything out with me. That really doesn't seem feasible. These sound great, IRs sound great.
If you've got an issue, here's a tissue.
Something else to mention is that you're probably not going to see me messing with the EQ controls like in close detail because this is kind of the camera angle that is working the best for this kind of situation. Again, I'm in a condo, don't have a lot of room to kind of work with, you know, unlike some YouTubers who have like a big studio. This is the best that we're going to do. I'm going to pause it a few times to kind of tell you what I'm doing to give you an idea. And depending on whether you're hearing the Century 1 or the Century 2, I'm just going to point to it because it's going to be too hard for you all to kind of see whether I'm switching between amp 1 or amp 2 on here. One last thing is that this guitar is running into a pedal board with some of my favorite pedals. We got an MXR 6-band for that classic Pantera vibe. We also have a couple overdrive pedals. We got an Ibanez TS7 for your traditional tube screamer kind of sound. We then have this pedal made by Eris. It doesn't have any knobs on it. It kind of reminds me of like a Fortin 33, so consider it like that. It's like a preset kind of TS style boost. We then have a couple distortion pedals, Chips and Pepto, Boss HM2, two of my favorite distortion pedals for a little bit of fun and some crazy flavor. And those are all going into my TC Vortex flanger. That's going to be off for the entire time. The only reason that it's on the pedal board is so I can actually run my guitar and split it into 2 signals because that pedal has a stereo out. That's going to be everything. Let's get to the video. All right, we're going to start with the Randall Century 1. Both of the amps have their tone controls set to noon. We got the gain pinned on both of them. It's maxed out. We have the sustain switches off for both of the amps right now. I will let you know when we're going to engage the sustain boost. And then we're just going to kind of toggle back and forth between them. You're also going to see on screen when we're going to engage and disengage pedals. I'm not really going to mess around with them too much. I kind of just preset them to how I generally like using these pedals. So we're just going to go with that as like a baseline. But yeah, let's just have some fun with it and see how these amps fare up when they're paired together. Right away, they sound pretty similar so far, and I guess that's surprising. I guess that's pretty good. Let's just kind of mess around with it, and let's just see if we can get them to sound closer or even a little bit more different from each other. Let's go back to the Century number 1. Let's throw the sustain boost on. Big difference in tone right there. Again, when you use the sustain boost, you definitely have to turn the volume up because it does cut the volume but adds a ton of gain to the signal, and it also reduces the mid. try and go back to the Century 1. Let's mess with the tone controls a little bit. Let's push them a little bit. Let's cut them a little bit. Let's dial it in. Let's see how they sound. So right away it seems like the Century number 1 has a little bit more low end than the actual Century 2. Now that could be a lot of things. It can be component drift, it could be the actual EQ curve. I got the amps set exactly the same way, so let's see if we can make them sound a little closer with maybe some different settings. Some pedals to the mix. Let's go back to the Century number 1 here, and let's start with the MXR6 band. Let's hear how it is. You could probably hear the difference between the MXR6 band and like a regular Ibanez Tube Screamer or any sort of TS style pedal. It seems like the MXR just kind of has a bigger impact on the overall tone between both of the amps. It sounds great, both pedals sound great, but that's just to kind of give you an idea of how much more you can get from a 6-band when you're running it with a solid state amplifier or even probably with a tube amp versus just a 3-band or honestly just like a 1-band tone control that's on a TS style pedal. There's nothing wrong with either ones. It all depends on what you're actually looking for your guitar sound. Back to the Century 1 now. Let's kind of like just have some more fun with some of the pedals and throw that sustain switch on too. How these amps really come to life, and you can really hear more mid-range and more low-end kind of turn up when you actually turn the amp's volume up a little bit more. Now, Dime used to run both of these amps, or at least a lot of his amps, at the 4 position, so right under noon. Apparently that was the sweet spot for these Randalls, so if you have one of them and you're able to really crank it up, give it a shot. Apparently that is the sweet spot for these amps. All right, so now let's get a little silly. Let's throw some distortion pedals on and let's see what these things are all about. That's honestly just too fun. Let's go back and let's see what this is like on the Century 1. In conclusion, from this little scientific demo here, it seems like these amps are very similar to each other. Now, even when I had these amps kind of in their own isolated videos and got to spend some time with them individually, they both really reacted the same. Maybe the high end on the Randall Century 2 was a little bit sweeter and a little bit more musical and pleasant than the high end on the Century 1. Maybe it was just what I was hearing that day. I mean, there's so many different factors, and honestly, I don't think you can go wrong either way. There are my pros and cons for each of these amps, you know, especially with the foot switch from the original one. There are a lot of really great options with these. Both these amps sound great, and I really think you can't go wrong with either amp. They sound fantastic, they're wicked, and you know, if this is what you want to do to get your Dimebag sound or to use this in some other contexts, as I kind of demonstrated with some of these distortion pedals, they sound great. Again, we're not really demonstrating the clean channel. These things aren't known for their clean channel. Even with the gain up to 10 on the distortion channel, sustain boost on, like this is a pretty usable guitar tone. Both of these amps really come to life when you kind of put a pedal in front of them, whether it's a 6-band EQ, some sort of overdrive pedal, and honestly, you know, one of my favorites is probably the HM2 because I love that guitar sound. But if I'm going to use something on a everyday basis, and if I wanted to have this for like my main guitar amp that wasn't in that style that the HM2 was kind of going after, probably the MXR 6-band or any sort of tube screamer, even combining them with each other, that's a really great option as well. And yeah, these things sound awesome. If you're going to look for one, you can't go wrong either way because they pretty well sound identical to each other. Alright, so that's going to do it for the video. I hope you learned something new and you heard the differences, or honestly a lot of the similarities between the Century 200 and the 202. Honestly, you can't go wrong either way. They really sound identical to each other, and if one of them pops up locally in your area and you want this particular amp for the vulgar or far beyond driven kind of tones, can't go wrong with either one. I mean, at that point, you're just kind of looking for whichever one kind of looks cooler. Personally, I think the Century 200 original looks cooler just on the layout, but that's just me. That's a real small thing. If either one pops up locally, I'll probably snag it, you know, and you should probably do the same. They don't really pop up that often, and if you want that tone, that's how you're gonna get it. Let me know all thoughts and opinions down below in the comments. I look forward to reading all of them and engaging with all of you down there. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. I got tons more videos like this on the channel, especially doing a lot of the Pantera and Dimebag deep dives. And if you are a returning subscriber, make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss a single video that I upload. Thanks for checking this out, and I'll see you next time.